meeting of the Westland City Council to order, please. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, tonight led by Councilwoman Tasha Green. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Green. Present. Councilman Hart. Here. Councilman Hammonds. Present. Councilman Hersberg. Here. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Londo is absent excused. President Godbout.
Present.
A quorum is present.
We'll begin with announcements and special presentations. First up, Don.
Thank you, Council President, City Council, Mayor. As usual, I'm here to give a road report, I guess, and this Sunday is the 8th annual Cruise in Hines, and so as Hines Park usually gets flooded, well, this weekend it'll be flooded with classic cars and hot rods, so come on down and enjoy the day. All of the entrances to the park will be closed off. Classic cars do enter through Dearborn on Ford Road. There's plenty of parking for spectators to come in at Merriman Road and park around there. There's over by the old Perrinville School, there is some parking there that's available. And come on in and watch. There's food available throughout the park. We've got food vendors all through the park, really. We've got over 30 food vendors this year and multiple places to stop and enjoy. Bring the families down, ride the bicycles, stay on the bike path, stay safe. But it'll be a fun day, and we're just looking forward to another great year. This year, we have a great loss with Sergeant Lee Smith, the Wayne County Sheriff. He was our liaison to the Sheriff's Department, and we're going to be missing him. There will be a tribute to him during the event, but next year's event, we will have his name on our shirts of our event to give him the credit that's credit due, and great loss to our community. So thank you very much for the time.
Mary?
Good evening, Councilman Godbout, the entire council, to the mayor, to all the dignitaries and the fine citizens of Westland. I bring you greetings from the office of Wayne County Commissioner Glenn Anderson. And I'll be with you very briefly. I want to remind you that the coffee hours will begin in September. It's the second Monday of every month, and that's the 10th of September. So we're looking for all to attend. In the city of Westland, it's at the Big Boy on Wayne Road. So all are welcome to attend, to share, and to give information as well. I also want to indicate that the commissioner is working on the 18-19 budget for Wayne County. We're hoping to have a good budget that will represent all of the citizens within Wayne County well. He'll make sure that he does due diligence to the citizens of Westland and its entire community that he's responsible for. I also am very grieved here today in regards to Sergeant Lee Smith, who was a fine sergeant in the Sheriff's Department, and the fact that he was ran over while jogging off duty. And it has grieved all of us severely because he was just a fine individual. He was very passionate, skilled member of the law enforcement community. Was scheduled to retire on October the 1st. So we're keeping him in our hearts and in our prayers. We're asking you to do the same. I want to commend the Westland Police Department being a part of that team to bring forth that individual that was involved in that. So I want to commend the Westland Police for a job well done. If you have anything that you'd like for me to take back to the commissioner, I'd be more than happy to do so. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Then we have some representatives from the police department have a presentation.
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Mayor, members of council, we'd like to tell you about an event that we are hosting September 22nd at our police department. It's a very special event. It's a day that we're going to host for children with special needs, young adults. We have not seen anything ever done like this before, not saying that it has never been done before, but we have never seen it. And Sergeant Fruit, Officer Donald, myself, and Sergeant Wilkie are trying to put this together, and that's why we have came up with this day, September 22nd. What we're going to do is we're going to use our department as a open, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for?
We're basically going to run a quasi-open house.
Yes.
For children with special needs.
And we are having 2 open sessions. So the first one is going to be for people with sensory disorder, where they can't have lights and sirens, where it's going to be quiet, where we're going to more cater for their needs, and where they can come over there and they can enjoy it. And we're going to make sure that they have an enjoyable experience over there. And the reason why this came to being is because while we're going out there in the community, we have a lot of parents tell us that they want to bring their children there, but they can't because of the large crowds, because of the sirens, because of the lights. And it's something that we thought that they should be able to enjoy, but we've never been able to let them have that. So now we're going to bring that experience, or have them come to our PD so they can experience that. There's going to be another session where even if they have special needs, they can come to it, but there's going to be lights and sirens and stuff, because that they can still enjoy that. So it's going to be at our department. It's going to be September 22nd, and it's something that we are hosting. We just wanted to let everyone here know that that is something that we are doing. Anything else?
We're going to be advertising the event on the City of Westland Police Department's Facebook page and on our website. If anybody has any questions, they can contact me in my office. My direct line is 722-9633. We're also creating a email address so that if any of the parents or anybody who wants to participate has any questions, they can contact us directly.
Great. Thanks.
Thank
Sounds
you,
like
sir.
a great event.
All right, thank you, sir.
We'll move on to citizens' questions or input on the agenda. Citizens will be recognized before the business of the meeting commences to address the council pertaining to items that are specifically on the business agenda. Citizens are asked to limit their questions or input to 3 minutes. Is there anyone on my right? Anyone on my left? Anyone in the audience? We'll close citizens' comments on the agenda and move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion? Support. Motion by Councilman Johnson, supported by Councilman Hersberg. Councilman Hart.
I move that we move item F to item 1A on new business.
Maker and supporter. Okay, so we'll move item F to 1A. Are there any other questions on the Councilwoman Green? Oh, okay. So we've got a motion on the consent calendar with support. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any
I'm going to make a motion that item G be moved to new business and item 1B.
Okay. Is there any other discussion from the council? Any other discussion? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing no dissent, motion carries unanimously.
Council has approved the following consent calendar items. Minutes of the regular meeting held August 6, 2018. Minutes of the study session held August 6, 2018. Proclamation for the Turn the Town Teal campaign. Approval of request from Celebration Lutheran Church for an Oktoberfest event on their property, October 6, 2018, which will include serving beer on the premises as part of the event. Approval of request from St. John's Episcopal Church to conduct a fall festival on their property, September 29, 2018, which will include serving beer and wine on the premises as part of the event. Last item on the consent calendar, adoption of Ordinance 259A, an ordinance to amend Chapter 26, Article 8 of the Westland City Code by amending Sections 26441 and 26443 regarding yard sales. This item had been introduced August 6, 2018. Moving to new business, item 1A, adoption of Ordinance 192A3D, an ordinance to amend Chapter 22, Article 6 of the Westland City Code by adopting Sections 22133 concerning portable moving and storage containers. This item was introduced August 6, 2018.
Councilman Hart?
Yeah, I move to adopt that ordinance based off of the amended verbiage in the council study session.
Is there support? Motion by Councilman Hart, supported by Councilman Hersberg. Mr. Fasson?
For purposes of the citizens, let me repeat what was discussed briefly in the study session. This came out of council deliberations over the 2 weeks in which this has been introduced, and that is to change section 22-133A to a provision that provides for, upon the filing of an application and the payment of a $5 fee in the city clerk's office, then the container could be placed at the location. There's also a change in sub B in terms of the timing. The container may be placed on a paved surface driveway of an occupied lot for no more than 45 continuous days and no more than 90 days on a particular lot in 1 year. Item C, which was in there previously, has now been removed, which had a 96-hour clock on it. And then the other articles in 22-133 were re-lettered C and D accordingly.
Councilwoman Green?
Yes, I asked that item G be moved, and it states that council has recommended.
We're on item F.
Oh, okay. I don't have any discussion for item F.
Okay. Is there any discussion from the council? Any discussion? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing no dissent, motion carries unanimously.
New business item 1B, adoption of ordinance 149A, an ordinance to amend Chapter 26, Article 9, to add Division 3, unsolicited written materials, Section 26-527 through 26-529 of the Westland City Code to regulate the distribution of unsolicited written materials within the city. This item was introduced August 6, 2018.
Is there a motion? Motion by Councilman Hammond. Is there support? Support by Councilman Hart. Councilwoman Green?
Yes, I wanted to discuss this item. It's stated that council is recommending this. I would like to know who on council recommended this for our city council packet. I pulled up council met on April 6th, on actually April 7th of this year. And we had a study session, and we discussed every ordinance change that was recommended by council. And I have the email in front of me, and the tracker. And this ordinance change was not listed as anything that council recommended. I have not participated in a discussion regarding this matter, and my concern is relative to the fact that it is being recommended that we approve this ordinance, which, if it is approved, residents or whomever could be looking at potential, it says municipal civil infractions, which could be fines and possibly a misdemeanor if a judge should say it's necessary for something that says to place unsolicited materials, written materials on properties. It just says the word properties. It does not define properties. And I don't think if we're going to make a change such as this that would subject residents to possible, or whomever, to possible fines and possibly a misdemeanor, it should spell out the definition of properties. And because council never discussed this, I have a concern with this passing without us discussing this. So for that reason, I would like to see this removed for council to discuss before we pass. And I don't think that is fair to tax-paying residents for us to sit here and pass something that I know I'm not even familiar with what properties means, and I could accidentally violate this and be looking at some type of legal issue or a fine that I'm not sure about. So residents should have the courtesy of us knowing exactly what we're passing on them before it is passed. So I'm not in agreement with this. Thank you.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a result of an ordinance that I brought forward, after hearing some concerns that when people were campaigning about the newspapers being thrown in driveways, I don't think the fines are directed at the homeowners, it's at the people who are putting them there. This was what, about a month and a half ago, Jim, that I brought that forward, and I showed Jim a copy of what they were doing in East Lansing. It's not against the homeowner, it's against the newspaper if they continue to throw it, basically, or anybody else that just throws stuff at front yards or porches. And that came up early in the year, I believe, because a couple of the council people said that they'd had complaints from residents. So that's what this is about. It's not fining the residents, it's fining, like the newspapers, if they continue to do it. Is that pretty much it, Jim?
That's correct, Councilman. You had brought forward the Lansing version of this. I think that evening during comments I mentioned that the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, had recently passed on a Kentucky statute dealing with unsolicited newspapers being thrown on property, and that we would model it something off that, and that's where this comes from. Actually, the word is that the ordinance talks about putting unsolicited written materials onto premises, and the term premises is defined in sub 3 of section 26-527, and you're right, there are penalties for this one. The penalty for violation is set forth in 26-529, and a person who does place those improper materials would be subject to a municipal civil infraction with an appearance ticket, and the first penalty violation would be a $75 fine, and the subsequent violation would be a $100 fine. That's how this is set up. It doesn't penalize the homeowner who got the unsolicited newspaper thrown onto their property, but the entity doing that.
And I think it goes a little further. It says that if a box is provided, it can be placed in that or a mail slot in the doorway. But this was nothing to do with a homeowner. It was due with complaints that people got while they were campaigning about the newspapers being thrown them in yards and driveways. That's all this is about, I think. Thank you.
Councilman Hammonds? Okay, thanks. Councilwoman Green?
Yes, thank you very much for the explanation, and I am aware of the discussion that we had about the newspapers. However, the verbiage in the way that this is written does not define that it does not apply to residents or taxpayers. It simply says solicited unwritten materials on properties. So if we use the word properties or premises, it does not state in any of the materials that this is subject to newspapers only. So is there any possibility that we can define this? Because the way that it is currently written, it is left to interpretation. And we may not feel that that is the case, but a court of law could interpret it completely different. I'm interpreting it different, and it is not written in a way that does not subject residents to fines. It simply addresses the action.
So first off, I would point out that the background information, the one sentence there for the council, does not possibly accurately capture the rest of the ordinance. You have to look at the entire ordinance with it. What that background information does is give you a sense of what the ordinance change is about. But again, the word properties, which is used in the background information, is not used in the ordinance. The word premises is used in the ordinance, the draft ordinance, and that is a defined term. I don't think there's maybe as much confusion as suggested that the person receiving it is at risk.
No, I'm not stating that
Okay.
the person receiving it is at risk. What I'm stating is a resident could inadvertently or unknowingly do this, and then they are subject to legal fees or fines unknowingly. So if we are going to pass an ordinance that would subject people to misdemeanors and fines, and you are stating that this is specifically for the newspaper, delivery company, or whom the newspaper, why not protect residents from someone else's interpretation? A year from now, this could be interpreted that they broke the law versus them not even being subjected to adhere to this.
So let me be clear, this is not just about newspapers.
That's what Councilman Johnson just said, that it was specifically about the newspaper.
And that's why the language in the ordinance is unsolicited written materials. I'll give you another example. Newspapers is the most common example, and I think the one that probably has come to council's attention the most. But I just got a Yellow Pages book thrown onto my driveway that I never wanted and don't have any need for. That's why there's Google. So it would apply to that kind of unsolicited written material. There is, and why this was found to be constitutional by the court is, there is a way to place that kind of unwritten or unsolicited written material on a home is by putting it on the porch nearest the front door, or securely attaching it to the front door, which you could do with a rubber band, for example, or through a mail slot on the front door. But that does not include the U.S. Post Office domestic mail box. So it is, I think, fairly clear that there is a way to provide that material that doesn't become a nuisance blowing around the front yard or on the driveway. And I think that's in part from the reading of the court opinion. It found it to be constitutional because there was a way in which you could comply as compared to saying you're infringing on my First Amendment rights because there's no way for me to deliver this material.
Well, I would just like to state for the record that I'm in agreement with what you're describing. The issue is it is not defined in writing, and it is left open to interpretation and whomever will be making the decision. My concern is that it should be clearly defined so that residents, if they should happen to do something similar to this unknowingly, they are not subjected to what we are trying to do to reduce unsolicited materials from companies. That is my concern as it relates to interpretation and the impact on residents. I agree with the junk mail and the newspapers, but this is not written in a way that would protect them, in my opinion. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion from council? Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Green.
No.
Councilman Hammonds. Yes. Councilman Hart. Yes. Councilman Hersberg. Yes. Councilman Johnson. Yes. President Godbout.
Yes.
Motion passes. New business, item 1. Set public hearing date for Street Lighting District Special Assessment District. It is suggested a public hearing date of September 17, 2018 be scheduled.
Motion by Councilman Johnson, supported by Councilman Hersberg. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing no dissent, motion carries unanimously.
New business, item 2, approval of DTE LED light conversion project and DTE agreement for new streetlight installations. The amount, $1,104,147.
Is there a motion? Motion by Councilman Hammonds. Is there support? Support by Councilman Hersberg. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing no dissent, motion carries unanimously. Mayor?
I had some discussion, but I'll wait.
Well, you can, go ahead.
I'll do my final comments.
Okay.
New business, item 3, approval of purchase of election equipment workstation hardware and software.
Is there a motion? Motion by Councilman Hersberg. Is there support? Support by Councilman Johnson. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing no dissent, motion carries unanimously.
New business, item 4, approval of purchase of election equipment scanner.
Motion by Councilman Johnson. Is there support? Support by Councilman Hersberg. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing no dissent, motion carries unanimously.
New business, item 5, approval of voucher.
Is there a motion? Motion by Councilman Hersberg. Is there support? Support by Councilman Hart. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing no dissent, motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to citizens' comments or requests. Citizens will be recognized at the end of the meeting immediately following the agenda item approval of vouchers. Citizens are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. All citizens wishing to speak will be heard. Is there anyone on my left? Anyone on my right? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, citizens of Westland, I came to speak about the Tawas house, sir. We're having a problem. It was limited to a certain time frame. The roof went on, and there's been progress to the inside of the property, but the progress to the outside of the property is limited to the front. The 4 dumpsters that have came are full. They've been, some of removed, some of still sitting there. And the property in the backyard lining my fence is trashed.
It's 10 times worse than it was. Everything that was inside the house is all the way down the property line. Metal, trash, it's a danger, it's the critters.
There was bullets outside, sir.
Yeah, we actually called Westland and had them pick up live rounds from the driveway that were next to the dumpster.
The police department told me to pick them up, sir.
And we've called several times through the last 2 weeks and we've gotten no response from anybody.
And I know
Except
that,
for the police department that came out and picked up the live rounds in the driveway.
and I know that it was set to a time limit for the inside, outside property, period.
And we understand that the time limit, that skews a little bit, you know, things happen, but the debris field is,
Disastrous.
we brought photos, honestly, so we
I'm
really
very-
love for
I'm-
somebody to drive by there and address the situation with the investors that bought the property, because
Sir, I'm personally afraid for the spiders, the critters, the rats, the bats, the raccoons. Everything that was inside the property is now coming outside the property.
and honestly, for the last 5 days, they've left it wide open.
They-
Right now, I could run and jump in the basement window.
You guys were worried about people coming and squatting at the property. They busted out the windows just so it could vent.
And all we're doing is smelling it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hang on, don't leave.
Go ahead.
All right, well, thank you for coming in, and I did get your message. Will you stick around to after the meeting, and you can perhaps meet with me and the deputy mayor Reddy and our city attorney?
Definitely.
We'll kind of give
Thank
you
for
a
your-
heads up of kind of where we're at on that house, and we'll take a look at those pictures too.
Thank you for your
And we
time.
appreciate what you guys did.
We thought we were around to the corner on this one.
No,
so-
it was going great. You know, as soon as everything closed out, we understood it took a little time, but they immediately were shingle truck, shingles were there, dumpsters were there. That first week, the cleaning crew, you know, I understood it was gonna be a little bit of this,
Great,
but the
great
last 4
bumping and
days-
thumping for the
Yeah.
whole weekend.
But the last 4
And then
days, there
nothing.
hasn't been anybody there. If they have been, they've been there 2 hours and they're not cleaning up.
Nothing.
You know, there should be some containment, construction workers, there's some containment to the debris field.
For the 4 hours
Usually
they
they
were
mention-
today, sir, they had a little girl there with them.
Okay.
We'll
Well, if you
talk.
want to stick around, or perhaps maybe my deputy can meet
Thank
with you
you,
right
sir.
now while we got a few
Thank you
minutes.
for your-
Thank you for
Thank
your
you
time.
for your
thanks.
time.
For your time.
Anyone on my right? Anyone on my left? Ida?
Thank you, sir. A little slow, but I'll make it. Good evening. Nice to be back. I'm here this evening because November 8th, or November 6th is going to be our general election for the city of Westland. And many of you know I'm supporting Kevin Coleman for state rep. He's been in city council for 4 years, did a great job, and he's also a member of the Veterans Association. I've known Kevin for a number of years through the church and other associations. I'm happy to announce that he's buying a home in Westland too. He loves Westland and he cares. And so he hasn't told anybody much beyond me, and I know where the home is and have sent mail to his address, so we won't have to be talking about him renting. He's buying a home, okay?
Also, Newburgh Road, I have asked for lighting. I had a friend taking me home down Newburgh Road off from Warren, and we're looking for Beechwood, which runs off from Newburgh, going west. And no lights, because the party store lights are off. That corner is dark. And said, where do we find the street? I said, well, that's very difficult, and I live here. So what we did was go in the left turn lane for a ways. I said, but just don't get to Ford Road, because then you've gone too far. It's very dark, and I've asked for this before. Put a light there at the corner of Beechwood and Globe, so that it's lit where people can see to turn onto Beechwood, because that's how I turn on to get onto Globe. It's very dangerous to someone who doesn't know the area. And I would also like to ask, we did Newburgh Road for the paving. Thank you, Mayor. I was appreciative of that. The one thing I do notice is the striping. Striping to me on a road, which is Westland, is a main street in Westland. It should be striped, I think, every 3 to 4 years. Since the paving's been done, where the striping should be is not there. You try and drive down Newburgh and look for it. It's not there. Let's get the striping done and then use that as something that we do every 3, 4 years, so that the people driving down Newburgh know what lane they should be driving in. And I think that's about all. And I am glad to be back. God bless all of you. Take care and keep Gene McKinney in your prayers, okay? He was our first mayor elected after Tom Brown. And so keep him in your prayers. Thank you.
Thanks, Leda. Just as a reference for your information, we just approved on item 2 of the new business tonight, the street lighting conversion project, which also includes lighting of Newburgh Road as part of the, yes, as part of the project, so.
Well, thank God. And so that'll include the corner where that
Sometime
party's-
this winter, is the time frame roughly that DTE and the representatives were here earlier gave us for when they'll get at Newburgh Road, because they've got to order new poles and things to do that project.
Okay, I wasn't privileged to be at that meeting, so.
Right.
But that's on my notes, and
Okay.
I
Thank you.
appreciate the attention that you're giving at your study sessions. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Anyone on my left? Anyone on my right? Ray?
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing today? I just looking back at the year, 'cause my birthday is tomorrow, and I'm very blessed, I'm very fortunate that I'm out here. I've done a lot in the 2018 and the language of hope, and I'm going to a conference, matter of fact, this week on stigma, because stigma can hurt a lot of people. And it's very important that when I use people's first language is to look at people. Don't look at people with their disabilities. Look at the person as a person. It's important, and that way it works better with the police departments, it works better with the fire departments. Sometimes we all have challenges in our life. So, I mean, people do go through some different levels of, could be from autism, could be from different things, and I'm really looking forward to the Westland Police Department, working with them on September 22nd of this special needs with people that, that are afraid of, we don't want them to be afraid of police officers and the sounds and stuff like that. And matter of fact, I just got a scholarship for the September's recipient rights, and I'm going up to Crystal Mountain up there past Traverse City next month for 2 or 3 days, and I'm going to be at that conference. And I'm going to be for people's rights. I mean, we need to change, and I'm going to be working on the language part with them. And hopefully they will hear the people that do get supports out there. And my thing is people driven. I'm going to do 1918 into 19, and I'm going to keep driving the system out there. It's very important. I made a lot of friends in the community, and I'm going to continue driving. This is my passion, and this is my life. I really enjoy what I'm doing. So, and I want to give kudos to the fire department, the police department, doing good with the Wayne County Sheriff. I feel that is sad what happened. How can somebody sleep when you run someone over? That's terrible. And these officers put lives out there every day for people's lives. And thank an officer when you see them. I do. Or the fire department, because you never know. Because you might be in a situation you might need help. So I want to say thank you.
Anyone on my left? Anyone on my right? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and all the other officials. Thanks for listening to my comments. I live in Westland in the very lovely area at Hunter and Central City Parkway. And there seems to be some behaviors going on that are detouring from the beauty of that area. The first one is shopping carts from Kroger's that people shop and then they take the carts off the property and leave them by their apartments or by their homes, which is deterring from the neighborhood. There's carts either on Hunter or Central City Parkway. I don't know what the solution is for that. We've seen at least 5 carts in the last couple of weeks. The second problem is one that's really probably, I don't know what the solution could be. People are bagging up their garbage in grocery bags from like Kroger's or wherever, the plastic bags, and just throwing them on the road, either on Central City Parkway or Hunter. It's been going on for years. It looks trashy, but like I said, I don't know what the solution could be for that. But trying to keep the area clean and nice. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone on my left? Anyone on my right? This is McKinney.
I think we're having a real problem with the ordinances. Officers, they're going after people that do not have problems with their lawn. And they got my neighbor all upset, which got me upset. And it's ridiculous. And his grass was not high. He got so mad he cut down his flowers because that's the only thing that was over 8 inches. So I think we need to get these ordinance officers some training and how to do it right if we're going to say we're the compassionate city. They're not very compassionate. They're very rude. And I think we need to do something about it. You have a beautification committee, and they keep telling me you can go online. I can't find how you can fill out a form on it. So I don't know how you're getting volunteers if you can't get the form. That's about it.
Anyone on my right? Mr. Graham?
Richard Graham from Westland and also with Move Westland Forward. A few items, but to start, if one of the city council members, and maybe Ms. Green, would like to do a moment of silence for Wayne County Sheriff Sergeant Lee Smith during their comments, that would be a nice gesture, at least from my opinion. Regarding the ordinance that passed today regarding unsolicited written material, I think that's long overdue, especially what happened during the election cycle, where newspapers were tossed on people's driveways throughout the city, and some of the front page was regarding racism, and in that was all of Team Wild's candidates in their campaigning. So having that, even in the winter, they get sucked up into the snow blowers. That's a good thing to have done. Through the chair to the Finance Department, and specifically Mr. Smith, on February 6, 2018, you approved Mayor Wild's January trip to Washington, D.C. However, his cab ride receipts dated February of 2018, when he was not there and it was in the future. I assume this was just another mistake made by Mayor Wild on his expenses submitted. We must remember, he also submitted his wife's plane ticket to Vegas. Based on Mayor Wild making mistake after mistake on his expense reports, why is someone not looking after these in better details? Are you doing this, Mr. Smith? Council, Mayor Wild, along with Deputy Mayor Reddy, have issues with submitting their expense reports. Why aren't you looking into these closer? Who is overseeing this? And it should not be a citizen who must FOIA the information. Second, and specifically towards anyone on council, does the city of Westland have a discrimination and harassment policy? Has our city attorney or anyone else advised council about the workplace evaluation assessment that was recently done in the city of Wayne? I am asking these two questions because of the business relationship between the two cities and specifically Westland's contract with our grant writer. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone on my left? Anyone on my right? Anyone else in the audience? We'll close citizens' comments and move on to comments from the administration. Mayor?
Thank you. Good evening, council. Good evening, citizens. I'd like to start off just a couple things that came out of the audience tonight, and to the residents that live at Hunter and Central City Parkway. Thank you for coming out tonight, and it's kind of a pet peeve of mine too when I see those grocery carts. So it seems like on a daily basis we're sending out a truck to pick those up. At this point, we've been taking them back. Maybe if we quit taking them back and take them to the recycling center, maybe that'll get their attention. So, but if you see any of those, just call our office and we'll make sure that we take care of that. We've also been working over the last couple weeks on the landscaping on Central City Parkway. Most notably the grasses that were planted there because we're trying to get the height right and trying to bring them back a little bit so as you make those turns. So that's something you've probably seen us do, and we'll continue to do that. Ms. McKinney, as far as those beautification forms, if you want to call our office, I'll have either Shannon or Aubrey can help you with that. And council, just wanted to cycle back to your approval tonight for the final conversion of LED lights in the city of Westland and the lights that were purchased. I just want to remind our residents that the first phase was actually 166 mercury vapor lights, which were changed over to LED, and that was in the Annapolis Park subdivision. That was our first pilot project. From there, we moved on to 230 of the major streetlight fixtures on some of the major roads. That was followed by phase 3, which went through the neighborhoods and converted about 2,500 mercury vapor lights to LED. This final phase, now that we've worked our way through all the mercury vapor lights in the city, now is changing out the high-pressure sodium lights. That's approximately 840 lights. So when this phase is done, the city of Westland will be just about totally LED. We'll be one of the first cities in western Wayne County and all of Michigan to be fully LED. So we do still have a couple lights here and there in some parking lots and in some of our parks and stuff that we'll chip away at those too, but this will pretty much be the final conversion in the city. And then Council President also mentioned that as part of this proposal, there would be new lighting installed throughout the city. And Ms. Lyda, you'd mentioned Newburgh Road. Part of the proposal will actually be installing 132 new lights on Newburgh Road from Glenwood to Joyce. So that's really going to light that road up. But it also includes 11 new lights on Wildwood Road between Ford Road and Hunter, 8 new lights on Vinoy between Cherry Hill and Palmer, 42 new lights on Warren Avenue between Wayne and Newburgh, and 28 new lights on Central City Park between Warren and Wayne. So The lights that are in the Shop and Dine district will also be new black poles, which will be decorative in nature, and they'll also be set up so we can put banners on them. And they'll also have plugs on them too, so we can also decorate them with Christmas lights as well. So once again, it's a great project. This will finish off our LED conversions and also fill in some dark spots, which have been, for those of you that have been around the city for a while, you know some of these areas we've talked about for years and years. So this should be a good addition to the city and show additional progress. The next thing I'd just like to invite the residents to is the Westland DDA is going to be kicking off a round of planning, which is open to the public. It is they're calling it Reimagine Ford Road. This is the Westland DDA Master Plan 2018. And we're inviting residents to come out and help us plan the future redevelopment of Ford Road, which will also include the former City Hall site on Warren Road. There's a flyer that's available in the kiosk. It's also available on the cityofwestland.com. But basically, the week of September 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th, it'll be a week-long, basically a planning session. There'll be lots of ways that the citizens can participate. We'll be kicking off with a bus road corridor, Ford Road corridor bus tour where residents can kind of weigh in on the things that they like and things they don't like. We'll also be spending time talking about creating a more walkable area, mobility best practices for bicycles and placemaking. So it's going to be a week-long of a planning event. It's going to finish off on September 15th, Saturday, noon to 1 o'clock right here at City Hall, where we're going to do our design reveal event. So if you get a chance, take a look at it. This is something I would encourage as many Westland residents and business owners to participate in, because it's something that, this is the future. We're going to start planning our busiest corridor, and the more citizens participation we can get, I think that the better that will be for a city. And then we're going to come back in October when this is finished, and we're going to do the same thing here in the Shop and Dine district as well. So we'll be talking a lot about visioning here in the next, probably the next 2 or 3 months here in the city of Westland. There'll be lots of ways that the residents can participate. Just the last couple things is I'd like to thank everybody that participated in our Blues, Brews, and Barbecue event. And at our next event, we should have our local organizations in to start distributing some of the proceeds from that night. So we look forward to that. I want to thank the Westland Police Department for their diligence and working with the Wayne County Sheriff's Department to apprehend the gentleman that took the life from Sergeant Lee Smith. So I do appreciate all the efforts that went into that. I know that you worked around the clock to make that happen. Chief Jedrusik, I also appreciate your hands-on action today as the Westland Police Department was working through some public relations issues on an event that happened over the weekend. And I know that you personally have been involved with that from start to finish, so I appreciate your efforts on that. And then the last thing is just also on the police department side is those officers tonight that we're talking about having the open house for opening up for families with special needs children. So that was the officers' idea. So I appreciate them thinking like that, knowing their community, and I also appreciate the leadership at the police department for giving them the latitude to take a great idea and run with it. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Anything from the city attorney's office? Councilman Johnson.
Nothing this evening. I too would request that maybe the council president have a moment of silence for the Wayne County officer at the end. Thanks.
Councilwoman Green.
Thank you. I'd like to start tonight by offering my condolences to the family of Sergeant Lee Smith, Wayne County Sheriff Sergeant Lee Smith. As a Wayne County Reserve Sheriff myself, it definitely, my heart goes out to his family and also the entire Wayne County Sheriff Department. I too would like to thank the work that the Westland Police Department did, the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, and every law enforcement agency, along with the community, that worked together and did a stellar job on apprehending the suspect. So thank you very much for your diligence. I'd also like to thank the residents of Westland Precinct 28 for electing me as a precinct delegate. I'm very excited about the opportunity to serve as a delegate for the next 2 years, so thank you for your confidence and your support. I'd also like to just let the community know who may not know that Comcast is currently offering a monthly internet service for $9.95 to low-income families and low-income veterans. So again, that's less than $10 a month. Comcast is offering that program. You can find more information on my Councilwoman Tasha Green Facebook page. Again, that's Councilwoman Tasha Green on Facebook, or you can contact Comcast directly to discuss that particular program, but it is posted on my page. I'd also like to remind everyone that now that we have bypassed the primary election, or gotten past the primary election, the last day to register to vote in Michigan to participate in the November 7th general election is going to be on October the 9th. So again, that's October the 9th. If you have not already registered, or if you have a teen who is approaching the age of 18, please encourage them to get involved in our political process. And also, I had questions from people who may not be aware if they've gotten in any trouble previously in their lives. People with felonies can vote. So if that is your circumstance, I definitely encourage you as well to let your voice be heard and register to vote by or before October the 9th. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Councilman Hammonds.
Thank you. I too want to offer my condolences to the friends and family of Sergeant Lee Smith. And I also want to thank the Westland Police Department on all their efforts and kind of leading up the team to catch or apprehend the suspect. And also thank all the other agencies that were involved as well. That's it for me tonight. Thank you.
Councilman Hart.
Thank you. I'll echo everyone else's sentiment. My thoughts and prayers from my wife and my children go out to the friends and family of Sergeant Lee Smith. I'm also very thankful for all the hard work that the Westland Police Department did on bringing that person to justice. I'm also very pleased to see the very positive outpouring of this entire city's sentiment and this entire community's focus on bringing this person to justice and everyone really being touched by it one way or the other. So even in a shadow of a horrible moment, I still found something that was positive, that we all really cared together about this gentleman, the life he lived in his family. Thanks again, Chief, to you and your team. Just to let a couple of my veterans friends know, there is a Veterans Health Summit Thursday, September 20th, 2018, this year, from 9 to 1 p.m. at Schoolcraft College. It'll be the 9th Annual Veterans Summit. It brings experts together with veterans in need of understanding the benefits for which they may be eligible through Veterans Affairs. Topics this year will include VA Ann Arbor Medical Center update, the State Veterans Update, Veterans Home for Southeast Michigan, maximizing veterans health care, veterans health and medical cannabis, and disability update. Veteran specialists will also be on hand to address special needs with VA, MVAA, and county counselors will answer questions. You must register for this free event. It's at 2018vetsummit.eventbrite.com, or you can call 248-912-3223. With that, I'll just close with a happy 21st birthday to my son this Sunday. May the Lord have mercy upon my soul.
Will he make it till? Councilman Herzberg.
Thank you. First, I'll just congratulate all the candidates that ran in the primary election and thank the voters that came out to vote. We had a pretty good turnout, I think, this year. We could still do better. So, you know, as some of the other council members said, October 9th is the last day to register to vote. Get those young people in the family registered and get them involved somehow in the city. We're looking for members on boards and commissions. We could always use a couple young members on some of those. I want to thank the council for sitting down before tonight's meeting and going over some of the ordinances that we've been talking about for quite a few months, and we got a couple passed here tonight, and we're still looking at maybe a noise ordinance and a few others. It's good to sit down with everybody away from politics and kind of just find what we agree on, what kind of things we can do to make a difference in the city. And my condolences also go out to Sergeant Lee Smith. That was a tragedy. And Ray, happy birthday.
Before I begin my comments, we'll take a moment of silence in memory of Wayne County Sheriff Sergeant Lee Smith. Thank you. Real quick, first I'd like to thank Councilwoman Green for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. I too would like to wish Ray a happy birthday. Chief, I know it's been said, but the department did an outstanding job working in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department to very quickly apprehend, and I know that there was an all-out effort to find the individual that ran down Sergeant Smith. And it happened in a very short period of time that they not only the residents I know were involved in it, but a lot of the businesses, I know that they were able to obtain and narrow down the path by support of a lot of the local businesses that had cameras on various streets, and were able to trace where the vehicle had been. And it was an outstanding effort, and thankfully a very quick resolution to apprehending the suspect. And I would just like to take a moment of privilege to thank my wife, who's put up with me for 40 years. Our anniversary was last week, and so she's got a lot of patience. Is there a motion to adjourn?